So you want to know what the best strength program is? Well, we are freaking pumped. I was about to swear about this show because we're going to dive deep into this topic, and boy, have we put a lot of research into this, and we've had some really good results. We're also going to answer 3 really good questions that have come in over the last 48 hours from you guys on this topic, and we're going to talk about 2, not just 1, 2 of the big mistakes that we're seeing people make, because there's a very different audience here. There's the beginner level person and the advanced level person, and we're going to dive deep into both. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister, that's my brother Yanni Burmeister, and we're the co-founders of Unity Gym and the co-creators of the UMS, the Unified Movement System, formerly known as the FMS, where we teach you how to nourish and move instead of diet and exercise. And it's a fun topic for us because we thought we were becoming the flexibility people and we didn't know why. But for whatever reason,
because we love strength.
Everybody just wanted to know what we knew about flexibility and mobility. And now that we've started to do a couple of shows on strength training this week, we're getting a lot of interest in it, which is pretty cool. Because we have an equal balance between strength and flexibility in our program. We're definitely not the flexibility guys, we're the strength and flexibility guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
so
let's get into it, hey? Let's cut to the chase.
This show's kind of speaking to 2 different audiences, because we do have the people who are searching for the best way to begin their strength training journey, and then we've got at the other end of the spectrum people who are quite elite and who are already crushing it, and we've got a really great show for both of you. So the first thing that I want to talk about really is the key insight that we're going to be talking about is today for this video is more so targeted at those people who have passed through the beginner phase of their training. Now, there's a saying in strength and conditioning, your experience defines your training age, and your training age is essentially every year that you've trained at a very high intensity with the proper sort of support and program sort of periodization models, you get 1 year as an experienced athlete. So if you've been training with a great strength coach for 2 years, you'd be 2 years old as far as your training age goes. And you know, the reality is, like, Rad and I have been training for 20 years or 25 years, but since we've really started to dial it in and train at the right intensities and with the right protocols behind us and the right methodologies, we're probably only 10 years old in the grand scheme of things. You know, what we've achieved in the last 10 years would far surpass the 25 years or the 15 years prior to that. So that's what your training age is. If ever Rad or I talk about training age. What the key insight about periodic overtraining that we're going to talk about today, which I've just given away a big what do you call it? What's it when you give someone a little bit of information but you don't give away, you don't reveal the big thing? Is it a hint? It's a hint. I just gave a hint to what the show was about today. Is really reserved for the experienced people. But that doesn't mean that the show is not going to help out anyone who's a beginner, because we're going to dive deep into that too. So why don't we start with the beginners? We used to talk about the order of the hierarchy of needs for a beginner was mobility first, because true strength cannot be achieved in the absence of mobility, and a lack of mobility contributes massively to, or at least increases the risk of injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we've now so we went mobility, stability, strength, and that was the hierarchy of needs with a new person. And we've now changed mobility, the word or term mobility, to balance. Now, why don't you elaborate on that a little bit, Rad?
Yeah, for sure. So the look, the one of the biggest problems that beginners face is
That's
impatience.
for you, Kai.
Okay, beginners are generally speaking, they're pretty impatient. They don't want to be held back. You know, people are fired up and they want to get into it, and they want to go to things that they're really not ready for. And when you're a beginner, you don't understand what you're not ready for. Even when you're advanced, like Yanni and me are, we still, or Yanni and I, if I want to use correct English, we still make mistakes, and we still realize that we were doing things that we weren't ready for, and we have to regress and go back and do more conditioning. So when you're a real beginner, when you're legitimately a beginner, you really don't know what you don't know. And what Yanni's referring to as balance is it's balance between strength and flexibility, balance between agonist and antagonist, so my bicep and tricep, the opposing muscle groups for my elbow flexion and extension, and also balance between limbs from left to right side of the body. So that's why we use the word balance. We want to create balance in a beginner, and without balance, you run a risk of injury that's on another level. You just don't understand. And when you do injure yourself, see, the problem is, when you're imbalanced and you keep training with an imbalanced body, those imbalances grow, they get worse because you don't deal with them and you keep doing the things that created the imbalances in the first place, and you get worse and worse and worse. And the worse you get, when you do finally tip over that point and get injured, the worse it is. And we've got people here, like, it's really funny. People come to Unity Gym, we have these absolute beginners, and then we've got people that have been training for decades that are strong mofos. You know, we do sometimes get people that are flexible and weak, but it's not that often. It's more we get people that are really strong and they're very inflexible. And the people that are really strong and have the worst imbalances, they're harder to fix than the people that are absolute beginners by a long shot.
Yeah.
So that's what we refer to with balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did talk about the symmetry of limbs, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Well, I mentioned it, symmetry of limbs, so symmetry from left to right. We've all thrown a ball, unless you're ambidextrous, which very few people are, but we've all thrown a ball with one hand for our entire life. We've all kicked a ball with one hand for our entire life. We've all written and painted and used a mouse with one hand. So one side is always more developed than the other.
And so this
and
is
you stand on one leg as well. Take note next time you're standing, having a conversation, which leg you're standing on. Try and stand on the other leg for 10 minutes and see how comfortable it feels.
That's right.
It's really weird.
So this is a good way of crossing over into why even athletes and experience level people need structural balance initially, because most sports you dominate with one side of the body. So it's very rare that I used to play, I've played a lot of sports, but what I've played seriously, I've done boxing, and I've also done soccer or football for the Europeans among us, and rugby league. Now, in soccer, I was very dominant with my right leg. In boxing, I was very dominant with my right arm, and it took quite a long time to even those imbalances out. And to this day, I like my right arm has about 250 grams more muscle mass than my left arm, which is a lot. If you consider the size of a 250 gram steak sitting on a dinner plate, it's a decent sized piece of meat, and that's after years of me working to work towards symmetry. Now, how does that affect me? Well, when I do inversion training, handstand push-ups, things like that, the first thing that goes, or the first instability that I come across, is my left shoulder. And lo and behold, when I started doing hand balancing for the very first time, guess what happened? My left shoulder blew out, and I needed rehab and physiotherapy and physical therapy on the left shoulder. So, these issues that come, they're most prevalent in professional athletes. And what Rad said is, we're not so concerned when a completely new person walks into the gym because they're a clean slate, and it's like having, this is a terrible example, but I used to be an artist. Having a blank canvas as opposed to recycling an old canvas that you've got to get white again so you can start again.
Yeah. Should we move on to what we talk about for advanced people now?
Yes.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm just looking down at our notes here.
We have show notes. We're very organised today.
So a common mistake that we see in advanced people on the other end of the spectrum, so these are people that have really been training for a long time, and they're people that have experience with injuries, is that often they're concerned about pushing themselves too hard and injuring themselves because they've felt that before, and they don't understand this balance between being able to push yourself and not get injured, because in their experience, when they push themselves, they get injured. And that's another big problem, because this is what today's show is really about, is that periodic overtraining is a very good thing if done intelligently. And there's a few things that you have to watch out for when you do it, of course. Like you don't do overtraining if you've got injuries. Injuries always have to be taken care of. But if you're injury free and you're experienced and you're experienced in the basic barbell movements, then periodic overtraining with the right program delivers exceptional results. The first time I did it, it's something called super accumulation. The first time I did it, my back squat, I'd never been able to do more than about 145 or 150, and I did super accumulation with Yanni for 2 weeks, and I did 170 kilo back squat, which was a double bodyweight back squat. You can actually see that on our Facebook page if you want, on a video that I just posted yesterday, if you want to see that. Kai, what are you saying?
Yeah, we should give Kai a shout out. Before we go any further, I want to just get in the habit of doing this because it really helps with the algorithm. And our mission here is to get our message out to as many people as possible. Please comment where you are in the world watching from, if you are catching the live stream.
Yeah,
Because
we'd love to know, actually. We don't know we don't know where you guys are all from. So, yeah, put a little note there. And if you love what we do, as Yanni said, it really, really helps us. It helps the algorithm to help us.
It helps if you leave a comment and leave a like, of course. But genuinely, we want to know where you are because we actually get a lot of people here in Australia watching that we weren't aware of. We thought that the majority of our guys were in America and Canada and England. But it's always good to see some locals jump on the stream as well. So Kai is saying balance training has made heaps of difference in surfing, sailing, and kite surfing for me, and I'm 50 years old. Yeah, I love that you're still getting at it, Kai. Make sure you watch the interview with Brad Gerlach. If you're a surfer, you'll appreciate that, especially in your demographic.
Yeah, he's a friend of ours who's done some symmetry training with us, some balance training with us as well, and he loves it. He reckons it's made a big difference in his surfing.
Yeah, we had a really great interview with him because he came up and did some training with us for a few weeks, and it's so funny, mate. You'll love it. Yeah, and you'll probably know who Brad is. You're in Noosa. Awesome. So essentially what we're going to do here, I want to make it really clear. The best strength program for a beginner is a structural balance program, without a doubt. And that will include...
Hey, Kyle.
That will include unilateral movements, so movements that separate left and right extremity, both for the legs and the arms. It'll include anti-rotation movements for the core. It'll include specific core movements. It will include stuff that helps with the balance mechanism, so hip stabilizers, shoulder stabilizers, and it usually spans 9 to 16 weeks. And it's critical that you do that. It's
9 to 18.
9 to 18 weeks. Sorry, my maths is terrible. We do 6-week program phases here.
Well, we do between 3 and 6. But for beginners, some of our beginners, we allow them to move from phase 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 in as little as 3 weeks. Yep. Some of them as many
This
as
is the
6
big
weeks.
difference. Okay, if I get an athlete who's very well trained, very well connected to their body, good strong neural pathways from brain to muscle, and good control over their body, then they'll do a structural balance program in 9 weeks. That's 3 phases of a program. Each phase is a more difficult phase. So it increases the intensity using progressive overload, which is the #1 rule in strength and conditioning. If you're an absolute beginner and you're not so strong in your movement patterns, then you'll probably do 18 weeks in a structural balance. That's 3 6-week phases. And you just embrace it, man. Like most people get an amazing... It's eating humble pie for an athlete because you've got to take a step back and watch the big boys lifting heavy, and you're not really doing that. You're doing the unilateral movements. But, man, you come out of it stronger, more well-balanced, more well-rounded, and a lot more prepared.
Let's move on to the advanced stuff, Yanni. Why don't you tell people what periodic overtraining does, what superaccumulation does to the body?
Okay, cool. So without doubt, and I've been doing, it's often referred to as overreaching in strength and conditioning, and it's essentially prescribed overtraining. You know, Rad and I talk about training to 70 or 80% of max effort most of the time.
Which is what we do 95% of the time.
Yeah, that's right. But then probably periodically throughout the year, like a maximum I would suggest once a quarter if you're really keen. I usually try and do a super accumulation phase at least once a year, if not twice a year. The key purpose of it is to overreach, overstretch, overwork your body, and force a massive neuromuscular adaptation. And the results are the first time you do it, the results are astounding. Like, you will go, wow. Usually we do it at times when people are feeling like their results are slowing down a little bit. We do it at phase 4 of our UMS program. So they've done 3 preparation phases, and then when we introduce barbells for the first time, we do an overreaching period. The other benefit of overreaching is that the programs are usually, that they should be very simple. So it's a lot of repeating the same movements. We do, in the traditional sense of a superaccumulation program, you do double day training 3 days a week and single day training 3 days a week with a goal to do 9 training sessions in a week. In our program that we do here, because we use it as an introduction to barbell lifting, we don't go quite that hard, but we still do a lot of the same movements. And so we incorporate Pavel Tetsuin's theory of greasing the groove a little bit, and we repeat the same barbell movements a number of times each week for a 4-week period, and then we have a back off week where we let the magic happen and we let the body adapt, and then we move forward. Now, the obvious benefit to that is that it dramatically levels up your tissue tolerances in your body. It dramatically levels up your pain threshold in your body. And the hidden benefit of the overreaching methodology is that it calluses your mind. It toughens you up, and probably the most profound thing that I get from it every time I do it is that it changes what I perceive as a possibility in my physical body. I come out of it at the other end sort of thinking, holy crap, like I am capable of so much more than I think I am. And every time you do it, your workouts forever are stronger, are harder, are more intense. You very rarely go backwards, with the exception of if you injure yourself during that period, which is possible because you're overreaching, you're pushing yourself hard, you know. But if you get through it safely, which is why we reserve it to, we leave it to experienced level people only, you come out of it so much stronger.
Not expert, just experienced.
That's right.
Just people that aren't absolute beginners.
Yeah, that's right.
People that have, that are, you don't even have to have experience with barbells, but you just need to be ready for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, for instance, you can't go into an overreaching phase injured at all. Any of even the smallest injuries or issues that you've got in your body will be magnified during that period of overreaching. And so what I find is that even stuff that I'm not battling with but has been a problem in the past will surface again during that period. You might, like a typical example is I've had tendonitis and tendinopathy in both of my forearms. They will both start to hurt again during the superaccumulation program, not to the degree where I need to go back to a physio or something like that, but I will be aware of them and I'll be like, oh God, you know, I hope that doesn't get much worse, and I have to massage my arms, and you've got to manage all of that. And that's why it's important to be experienced, because you need to be able to identify those things and you need to be able to treat them and manage. Like self-management is critical, you know, because obviously you don't want to have to go and spend a whole heap of money seeing a physical therapist during that period unless you've got that, you know, if you've got disposable income that you can afford to do, you know. So that's why we say it's important to be experienced at that point.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's pretty good.
So our favorite program, absolutely without doubt, for an experienced level person is periodic superaccumulation training to leveling up your strength. And it's usually always done with simple barbell movements. It's always done with simple programming and overload techniques. There's no supersets, there's no drop sets, there's nothing fancy like that.
Massive amounts of volume and all over body workouts as well.
That's right, and this is the one time that we really like all over body workouts. We don't do a split where it's upper body, lower body, arms, shoulders, anything like that. We don't even do bent arm strength, straight arm strength. It is just all over body, and that's because we're repeating the same workouts a number of times each week.
Yeah, and also because one of the big parts of it is that you're training the central nervous system. It's not about training a muscle group. It's about training the entire organism, the whole body.
Yeah, that's right. And so to give you an example, in our super accumulation program, our UMS super accumulation program, you don't do any isolated movement at all. It's all compound movements because you want big bang for your buck movements that are going to stimulate or get the most amount of stimulation into the central nervous system and the neuromuscular system. So we've got 3 really good questions that we want to finish with today. The first one is I can't remember who it was. I've got it here. Options. Know about the best stronger coming from. Okay, I can't even pronounce this. It looks like a German.
Looks like a German name. Kampf
Kettlebell Leipzig would be. I'm assuming the gym.
Yushinkan.
Yeah.
Kettlebell Leipzig. Yeah.
It looks like a German.
Yushinkan. Yeah.
Someone from
European at least. Anyway.
In Germany. Great show. What do you think about kettlebells? Heavy get-ups or farmer's walks are also excellent exercises for developing strength. And you're absolutely right. We use kettlebells a lot in our training. For our super accumulation program, we don't, because the majority of kettlebell lifting, unless you're doing sort of goblet squats and stuff like that, they're really great for unilateral. They're really great for functional strength. They're great all round. Like we use both examples there. Get-ups, we use farmer's walks, we use suitcase carries, we use kettlebell swings.
I think there's an easy way to describe this. Kettlebells are a brilliant way for developing strength as supplementary exercises.
Yeah, they're also good for primaries as well, but we prefer barbells for primary lifts.
And I think most strength coaches in the world would prefer barbells for primary lifts, wouldn't they? I don't think I've ever worked with anyone who's at the kind of level of the people that we learn from that recommends using kettlebells over barbells for primary lifts.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this to say kettlebells are bad. We love kettlebells. We use them. I'm just trying to give some clarity.
Yeah.
What do we think of kettlebells and how do we use them? So when we write a program, let's put it this way. We've been writing programs for 16 years. Have we ever put kettlebells at the top of the programming list?
No.
Never.
No.
It's always something that comes after the primary lifts for us.
Yeah.
And so that's how we believe we use kettlebells. And they're really, really good for that.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
Good. I know that there's people out there that use kettlebells differently. I know that there's people out there that advocate that kettlebells are like the best strength training tool, and you use it for your primaries and supplementaries and everything. But the really seasoned strength coaches, the people that have trained the most of the top athletes around the world, people that have the most skin in the game and the best results to show, and the people that we've worked with, they've never taught us that way, and we don't believe in it.
The thing is with kettlebells, and this is my take on it, they add a layer of complexity to the movement. And when you're training for absolute brute raw strength, there is an element of simplicity that's needed. That's one thing. The other thing is that it's much easier to fractionally load a barbell. By that I mean, sometimes going up in a 2 kilo increment is too much, and you need to be able to fractionally load between the kilo mark. And barbells can be loaded by half kilo. I don't know how many that is in pounds. It's like
it's very small.
Grams, yeah. So that's one element. But the other element is that the layer of complexity that kettlebells add, I prefer it as a supplementary lift. So the next question, go in.
So somebody wants us to clarify the 50, 70, 90 and 100% exercise specific warm-up. So I always find this one a funny question to answer because it makes so much sense to me. So I'll try and simplify it. If you want to lift, if you're going into a weightlifting session and you know that you're going to lift an 80 kilos on your back squat, what 50, 70, 90, 100% or a 4, 3, 2, 1 warm-up means is if you're going to lift 80 kilos, your first lift is at 50% and you do 4 reps at that because you want to warm up. You want to warm up on a weight that is really, really light, really, really easy, and it's not going to fatigue you. Then you go to 70% and do 3 reps, 90% 2 reps, and then 100%, which would mean 80 kilos for 1 rep. Why do you do it like that? Because you don't want to go straight into the weight that you're going to lift. You risk injury. And you don't want to be lifting high amount of reps close to the weight that you're going to lift during your warm-up because it'll fatigue you. So that's why you start at a low weight with a few reps, and as you incrementally increase the weight, you reduce the reps you do so that you don't fatigue yourself, and by the time you finish your warm-up, you're ready to lift that 80 kilos, but you're not fatigued.
Yeah. So I want to answer this question specifically because it's by Kai, who's on the stream right now, and he's asked what the next step would be to get stronger. His mobility is coming along nicely, but there are so many options you guys provide that it is hard to find focus. Any suggestions on how to strengthen legs, which videos and programs to follow? Still trying to get my head around it.
Oh,
so
this is an interesting one,
yeah,
considering what we're about to do today.
That's exactly right. So Kai, as I said earlier, it would depend where you're at, what your level of experience is with weightlifting. I know that you're a surfer and a kite surfer, which to me would suggest that you've got really great core strength and probably quite above average stability and leg strength. So, and shoulders, man, very like strength specialization in the shoulders. I go surfing from time to time. I'm useless at it, but whenever I do, it actually destroys me just getting out if the surf is over 4 foot. You know, it's like getting out to the back is it's an incredibly specific fitness that you need for surfing. Now, the answer is 100% to do something that capitalizes on the concept of progressive overload, superaccumulation, and periodic overreaching, like supercompensation. Progressive overload, supercompensation, and periodic overreaching, like superaccumulation, which we've spoken about today. And I know that this is a shameful plug, but I'm going to do it anyway. The secret behind our UMS program, formerly FMS, is the progressive nature of it. So we get people in, we have what we call our foundation program, which is the first 3 phases, which, as we said, is done by an athlete for usually 9 weeks and by a regular sort of person or a beginner up to 18 weeks. And that's 3 phases. Each of those 3 phases progress on one another in movement complexity, in volume, and intensity. Then once we go into phase 4, we introduce barbells, because by that time the body has been symmetry tested and approved, and also agonist, antagonist improved, and also balance improved from strength and flexibility. So then we go into barbells and we introduce compound lifts, we introduce bilateral lifts, and we go for absolute raw strength. And then from there, we do periodic strength testing using what we call an anatomical structural balance blueprint, where every 6 weeks, we test everybody's body, we test their balance, their symmetry, and their strength, and that's how we progress from that point on. So from phase 5 on, if you do the program properly, it's very, very personalized to you. We have our split where on Monday, everyone does bent arm strength. On Tuesday, everyone does squatting together. On Wednesday, everyone does straight arm strength. On Thursday, everyone does bent arm strength again. On Friday, everyone does hip bending movements. And on Saturday, we do straight arm strength patterns again together. But it's quite personal to everyone, you know. So to answer your question, man, and you know, if you want any sort of proof on this, the best program in the world, we're getting a lot of reinforcement about this from all over the world, is the UMS program. And I know that that's a shameful plug, but we haven't seen anything better, and that's why we created it. And it's had influence from strength coaches all over the world. It's not like, you know, it'd be shameful to say that it's just our work. It's a culmination of our work, which has come from influences from some of the best people around the world over the last 25 years. So, you know, to say, I have never seen a better program, and that's what people are saying. Check out our Google reviews, you know.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Not for the price that you pay, anyway.
Yeah.
For $49 a month. Well, the only thing that I'd have to add to that is if you want to just take a step in and you're not willing to commit to the program yet, but you are past that absolute beginner stage, which it sounds like you are, we're actually launching our super accumulation program as a standalone program today for our Friday Frenzy for this weekend, where you can get it for half price. So instead of it being $149, it's going to be $74.50 US, and it will have, as always, a whole bunch of amazing inclusions, including phase 1 of the UMS program. So to make it really simple, that is going to be, I swear, read our Google reviews, man. There's not one single review of anyone saying that they feel like they got ripped off. The amount of value that we put into these courses is absolutely phenomenal. And for $74.50 US, you'll get not only the phase 1 of the UMS program, so you can do that if you want, but you'll also get the super accumulation program and a bunch of other extras that we're going to put in as well.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, we got inundated by people wanting to know more about this stuff.
Kyle's saying he's in the middle of the first week of phase. Yeah, it is. It's Kyle.
Oh, it's Kyle. Yeah.
In the middle of the first week of phase 1. Really like how well thought out this program is. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much for that, brother.
The reason why it is so well thought out is because of the amount of trial and error that we've gone through in our gym. We didn't just sit down and write a program and release it. We've tried it on ourselves and our clients for years and years and years, and that's why it is what it is now. Yeah. So thank you. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it, bro.
Look, and this is the thing, the experience, like Rad and I started personal training in 2004. The experience you get, like skin in the game from training thousands of clients from all different demographics, all walks of life, from professional athletes to some of the highest paid CEOs of businesses who demand excellence. Is you can't buy that. You can't buy that. So look, and the best thing is there's absolutely no risk, because we give away a month trial for free because we're so confident that people love it. So anyway, guys, we are I wasn't going to talk about it in this video, but we are going to talk about it because Rad brought it up. Now we are doing our Friday Frenzy for anyone who's interested in dipping their toe in the pool. You're going to get two ends of the spectrum. You're going to get the straight up first phase of the conditioning foundations program, which for a lot of people is really challenging. For most people, it's really challenging. Unilateral exercises are not easy because there's a massive stability element there. And you're going to get quite an advanced program there. Now, most of our guys that come into the UMS program don't get to see that super accumulation phase for at least 3 or 4 program phases. So you get a real opportunity to dive in and get both ends of the spectrum there. And it's a fantastic opportunity. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would recommend you do. I hope that helps you, Kai. I didn't want to just plug our program, but it seems like we have. That's pretty much it. That's all we had time for today. So guys, reach out to us, send us your questions. I love this discussion. I love this conversation. Strength is my forte, and it's something that I am very passionate about. And it's something that we do fairly well here. So keep the questions coming, and we're going to keep with this format. Hey, next week we're starting to get back on top of launching our new formatted, more produced videos. We're doing exercise tutorials again next week. We're still going to be going live every morning, but also every day we're going to be doing a produced tutorial show, and it's going to be all about mobility next week.
Yeah, all about mobility. We're going
really
we're
wicked
do a show on
mobility.
The front splits, a show on the middle splits, a show on the pancake, a show on the back bridge. It's going to be a good week.
Yeah, we got a lot. We're really well organised for next week. I'm excited about it. So make sure you tune in, and we're going to be doing the same thing, answering your questions here on the show every day. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend. It's the weekend for us, so enjoy. For all of you in America, sorry, you got another day at work.
See ya.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.